She demanded I pay for her sister's BBL surgery. She's depressed about her body. Be a good brother-in-law, I replied. Not my problem. Then I bought myself a new truck with that exact amount of money. The screaming voicemail when I pulled up in the driveway. Man, where do I even start with this crazy story? The main confrontation happened about 6 weeks ago, but this whole situation has been building for almost a year. Quick background. I'm 31M, married to Amanda, 28F, for 2 years now. I work in logistics, making decent money around $85K per year. Amanda works part-time at a vet clinic, making maybe $25K. We split household expenses proportionally based on income, so I pay about 75% of everything. Amanda has this sister named Bree, who's 24, and honestly a complete train wreck. Dropped out of community college 3 times, lives with different guys every few months, has never held a job for more than 6 weeks. Classic case of someone who thinks the world owes her everything, but doesn't want to work for anything. Bree's always been jealous of people who have their stuff together. Makes snide comments about my truck being too fancy or our apartment being in a nice area. Like, sorry, I chose to finish college and build a career instead of partying until I was 24 with nothing to show for it. The plastic surgery obsession started about 8 months ago. Bree became convinced that her problems would disappear if she just got a Brazilian butt lift. Spent hours on Instagram looking at before and after photos, talking about how much better her life would be with a bigger butt. Amanda initially tried to talk sense into her, explaining that surgery wouldn't fix her underlying issues, that she needed to focus on getting stable employment and working on herself mentally before thinking about cosmetic procedures. Bree wasn't hearing any of it. Then Bree started the research phase. Found a clinic in Miami that specialized in BBLs, looked up financing options, read horror stories about botched surgeries. The whole thing became her full-time obsession. Every conversation somehow circled back to this surgery she couldn't afford. The procedure she wanted cost $15,000. Bree had maybe $300 in savings and credit cards that were already maxed out from previous shopping sprees. No legitimate financing company would approve someone with her credit score and employment history for such a large loan. That's when she started hitting up family members for money. Asked her dad, who's retired and lives on Social Security. Hit up aunts and uncles who barely know her. Even tried to set up a GoFundMe with an emotional story about self-esteem and confidence, but it barely got any donations. Amanda felt bad watching her sister get rejected by everyone, but understood why nobody wanted to fund such an expensive elective procedure for someone so irresponsible. Bree had burned bridges with most of the family by borrowing money and never paying it back. 3 months ago, things escalated. Bree started showing up at our apartment crying about how depressed she was about her body, how she couldn't even leave the house because she felt so ugly. Amanda would comfort her while I mostly stayed out of it. The emotional manipulation was pretty obvious to me, but Amanda has a soft spot for her sister. She'd grown up protecting Bree from their parents' criticism and felt responsible for her happiness even as adults. Classic enabler behavior. Bree began dropping hints about how successful I was and how $15,000 was probably nothing to someone with my income. Comments about how family helps family and how she'd never forget someone who believed in her dreams. I saw exactly where this was heading. Then came the direct asks. Bree would corner me when Amanda was in the bathroom or getting ready for work, begging me to loan her the money, promising she'd pay me back as soon as she got on her feet. When I said no, she'd start crying and guilt-tripping. I told Amanda about these conversations, and she agreed that lending Bree money would be a bad idea. Her sister had borrowed money from Amanda before and never paid any of it back. Even small amounts like $50 for gas would disappear into whatever crisis Bree was having that week. But Amanda also felt guilty seeing her sister so desperate and depressed. Started suggesting maybe we could help with a small portion of the cost or research payment plans. I shut that down immediately. $15,000 was a significant chunk of our savings, and I wasn't risking it on elective surgery for someone with zero financial responsibility. 2 months ago, Bree changed tactics. started bringing Amanda articles about the psychological benefits of cosmetic surgery. Stories about women whose confidence improved after BBLs and how it changed their whole life outlook. Subtle manipulation disguised as educational material. She also began involving their mom in the campaign. Their mother felt guilty about not being able to help financially and started pressuring Amanda to find a solution. Family dinners became awkward with everyone tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. The mom even called me directly asking if there was any way we could help Bree achieve her dream. I explained that $15,000 wasn't pocket change for us, and that Bree needed to earn the money herself or find realistic alternatives. The mom wasn't happy with that answer. Amanda started getting more pressure from her family about being selfish with our money, while her sister suffered. Her mom would make comments about how when she was young, families helped each other through tough times. The guilt campaign was working on Amanda, even though she tried to resist it. A month ago, Bree escalated to showing up at Amanda's work a couple times crying and asking to talk privately. Her coworkers felt bad for Amanda dealing with family drama, and some even suggested we should help if we could afford it. The public pressure was building. That's when Bree played her ace card. Claimed she was having suicidal thoughts because of her body image issues, and that the surgery was the only thing keeping her going. Amanda came home panicked, thinking her sister might actually hurt herself over this situation. I pointed out that threatening suicide to get money for cosmetic surgery was textbook emotional manipulation. That if Bree was really having mental health issues, she needed therapy, not a BBL. Amanda agreed logically, but emotionally was still scared for her sister. The family meeting happened 3 weeks ago. Bree, her mom, and Amanda sat me down to present their case for why I should fund the surgery. They had payment plans, researched clinic reviews, and testimonials about life-changing results. It was like a sales presentation. Bree cried about how this was her chance to finally feel confident and build a better life. Her mom talked about family responsibility and how successful people should lift up those struggling. Amanda mostly stayed quiet, but I could tell she wanted me to agree. I listened to the whole pitch, then calmly explained my position. $15,000 was a significant amount of money that we'd worked hard to save. Bree had never shown financial responsibility and had no realistic plan to pay us back. This wasn't an emergency medical procedure, it was an elective cosmetic surgery. The room went silent for a moment, then Bree exploded. Started screaming about how selfish I was and how I didn't understand what it was like to feel ugly every day. Called me heartless and said I was keeping her from happiness because I was cheap. Her mom jumped in, saying I clearly didn't care about family and that $15,000 meant nothing to someone making my salary. Amanda tried to calm everyone down, but the damage was done. The meeting ended with Bree storming out and her mom giving me dirty looks. That night, Amanda and I had a serious conversation about boundaries and financial priorities. I explained that giving into this kind of manipulation would set a dangerous precedent with her family, that we'd become the bank for every scheme or crisis Bree cooked up in the future. Amanda understood my perspective, but was torn between supporting her husband and helping her sister. We agreed that our financial goals came first, and that Bree needed to find another solution. I thought the matter was settled. I was wrong. Last week, Bree showed up at our apartment with a new strategy. She'd found a clinic that offered a small cash discount and was presenting this as a compromise, like she was doing us a favor by finding a way to save money. When I still said no, she lost her mind completely. Screamed that I was ruining her life and that she'd never forgive me for keeping her from her dreams. Said I was a terrible brother-in-law and that Amanda deserved better than someone so selfish. Amanda defended me, which made Bree even angrier. She accused Amanda of choosing money over family and said their dead grandmother would be ashamed of how materialistic we'd become. Really pulled out all the stops with the emotional manipulation. The final confrontation happened 5 days ago. Bree came over with printed photos of the results she wanted and a detailed plan for how the loan would work. She'd apparently spent hours crafting the perfect argument to change my mind. She laid out the photos and started her pitch about how this surgery would transform her self-esteem and give her the confidence to finally succeed in life. How she'd be able to get better jobs and relationships once she felt good about her body. The whole thing was delusional, but she clearly believed it. When I remained unmoved, she switched to anger mode, told me I was heartless for watching her suffer when I could easily solve her problems. That $15,000 was nothing to me but everything to her. That being a good brother-in-law meant supporting family dreams. I finally had enough and told her exactly what I thought. That her problems weren't caused by her body, they were caused by her attitude and poor choices. That no amount of plastic surgery would fix someone who refused to take responsibility for their life. That she needed therapy, not a BBL. Bree absolutely lost it. Started screaming about how I didn't understand anything, and how dare I lecture her about responsibility. Called me every name in the book, while Amanda tried to calm her down. The neighbors probably thought someone was being murdered. After she left, I made a decision. Went online and started looking at truck dealers. I'd been driving a 10-year-old pickup that was starting to have issues and had been thinking about upgrading. Found a nice F-150 with all the features I wanted for exactly $15,200. The next morning, I went to the dealership and put a deposit down on the truck. Called Amanda from the dealership to let her know I was making a big purchase with our savings, since she'd asked me to think about what we really needed the money for. She was surprised but didn't object when I explained my reasoning. The truck is amazing. 4-wheel drive, leather seats, navigation system, backup camera, all the bells and whistles. Exactly what I wanted, and a practical purchase, since I need reliable transportation for work. Much better investment than funding someone else's cosmetic surgery. I drove the new truck home that evening and parked it in our usual spot. Amanda came outside to see the new vehicle and smiled when she saw the F-150 sitting in our driveway. Asked how the purchase went and if I was happy with the choice. When I told her the final price, she nodded thoughtfully. Asked if this was my way of making a point about the surgery money, and I confirmed that it was. Amanda said she understood and was actually relieved that we'd found a practical use for the savings. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Bree had apparently driven by and seen the truck, then called Amanda screaming about how I'd bought myself a toy instead of helping family. The guilt campaign was back in full force. The voicemail Bree left was absolutely unhinged. 20 minutes of sobbing and screaming about how I'd destroyed her dreams and ruined her life. How I'd chosen a stupid truck over her happiness and how she'd never forgive me. She threatened to tell everyone what kind of person I really was. Amanda was getting calls and texts from her mom and other relatives who'd heard about the truck purchase. They were painting me as the villain who'd rather have material possessions than help a struggling family member. The pressure campaign was intense. But here's the thing. The truck purchase actually proved my point perfectly. Bree's reaction showed that she'd never really accepted my no as final. She'd been waiting for me to change my mind, and when I spent the money elsewhere, it confirmed that her dreams weren't going to happen. If I'd really believed she would pay me back, then spending the money on something else would have been fine. The fact that everyone was so upset proved they'd expected me to eventually cave and fund the surgery, regardless of my stated position. Amanda initially was a bit surprised that I'd made the purchase so quickly, but understood my reasoning. The truck was something we actually needed and would benefit from for years. It was a practical use of our savings, unlike cosmetic surgery for someone else. The family pressure continued for about a week. Guilt trips about how heartless I was and how Bree was now more depressed than ever. Her mom even suggested I sell the truck and give Bree the money, which was completely ridiculous. I stood firm on my decision. Explained that our money was ours to spend as we saw fit and that Bree's financial problems weren't our responsibility. That she was an adult who needed to find her own solutions instead of depending on relatives to fund her wants. Amanda eventually came around to supporting my position, realized that giving in to this demand would have opened the floodgates for future requests. That we'd never have any financial security if we became the family bank for every crisis or scheme. The aftermath has been interesting to watch. Bree apparently tried to get a loan from several questionable places and was turned down due to her credit and employment situation. Reality finally started setting in about her financial limitations. She's now working at a fast food restaurant, trying to save money for the surgery herself. It'll take her about 3 years at her current savings rate, assuming she doesn't spend the money on other things. My guess is she'll find some new obsession before then. The family drama has mostly died down, though. I'm still getting occasional guilt trips about ruining Bree's self-esteem. Some relatives have stopped speaking to me, but honestly, that's probably for the best. I don't need toxic people in my life. Amanda and I are stronger than before after working through this situation together. She's learned to set better boundaries with her family, and I've shown that I won't be manipulated into poor financial decisions. Our marriage is more solid now. The truck has been great. Reliable transportation with good resale value, unlike cosmetic surgery, which has zero return on investment. I drive past Bree's work sometimes and wave from my comfortable leather seats. She pretends not to see me, but I know it bothers her. Some people think I was cruel for buying the truck right after refusing to help with the surgery. But I disagree. My money, my choice. If Bree wanted control over how that $15,000 was spent, she should have earned it herself. The whole experience taught me that family members who only contact you when they need money aren't really family at all. They're just people who happen to share DNA and feel entitled to your resources. Real family respects boundaries and doesn't manipulate through guilt. Bree's still posting about the surgery on social media, asking for donations and sharing sad stories about her body image. The GoFundMe has raised about $200, mostly from people who don't really know her. Reality is harsh when you can't manipulate people effectively. Amanda's relationship with her family will never be quite the same, but that's probably healthy. She's learned that supporting her sister doesn't mean enabling poor decisions. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face natural consequences. I'm planning to keep the truck for at least 10 years. So I'll have a constant reminder of the time I chose practical investment over family manipulation. Every time I start it up, I'm reminded that standing firm on principles has rewards. Bree occasionally tries to restart the conversation through Amanda, but I'm done engaging. She had her chance to present her case, and I made my decision. No amount of crying or guilt-tripping will change the outcome now. The truck gets great gas mileage and has all the features I wanted. Much better purchase than funding someone else's unrealistic dreams. Sometimes the best investment you can make is in your own peace of mind and financial security. Life lesson learned. When family members try to guilt you into poor financial decisions, the best response is to show them better uses for that money. Actions speak louder than words, and my truck speaks volumes about priorities. Still getting occasional angry messages from Bree's friends who've only heard her side of the story. I don't bother responding because you can't reason with people who think emotional manipulation is a valid fundraising strategy. Some battles aren't worth fighting. The truck will probably outlast Bree's obsession with cosmetic surgery. By the time she saves enough money for the procedure, she'll probably want something completely different. That's how immature people operate, always chasing the next quick fix. Amanda jokes that she married the right person since I can't be manipulated into stupid financial decisions. Says she feels more secure knowing I'll protect our family's resources from outside pressure. Trust and respect matter more than temporary approval from toxic relatives. Best $15,000 I ever spent. Got reliable transportation and proved I won't be pushed around by guilt trips. Sometimes you have to make hard choices to maintain your principles and financial security.